Hello and good day. Welcome to my vlog. I guess this is an official vlog. Not really much of a vlogger, but I did this a couple weeks ago in this sort of short workout video, and I'm doing it again. It's around 8 o'clock Sunday morning. I am off to church to play organ in the Lutheran church where I am organist. In a couple hours I am leaving, and I did my daily exercise today. I went out for a nice jog interspersed with some walking, and did some calisthenics, a little bit of light weightlifting, and now I'm doing some stretching. I'm just showing you a stretching exercise that I like to do. And first of all, let me just tell you a little about my background. A lot of you probably don't know about Bach Scholar as a person. Well, I'm 56 years old now. I've done pretty much everything under the sun, so you don't have to recommend anything to me. I've done everything in my 56 years. I have done everything. When I was in high school, I was a track runner, actually a very gifted one at that. I had shin splints though, so in high school I really didn't, I didn't win competitions or anything like that, but I was on cross country. And then as I got into college, my shin splints went away and I began training for marathons. I ran full 26-mile marathons when I was in my early 20s, actually 19, 20, 21 in those years. I was running 8 miles a day. My first marathon that I did was 3 hours and 14 minutes. I came in, I think, about 40th place out of something like 400 in my very first marathon. And that was, I walked most of the last 5 miles because I hit that wall at like around 20 miles, and I had never run a marathon before. This is my first one, and I hit the wall at 20 miles, and I basically walked and jogged the last 5 miles, and I did it 3 hours and 14 minutes. So I was very gifted at running. I was training 8 miles a day. I was working out with weights 3 times a week. So in those years, I was lean and muscular. I wasn't skinny like most marathon runners were. I wasn't anemic looking, but I was actually, that's kind of the ideal I wish I was at now at age 56. So I have a photo from me in one of my marathons when I was, that first marathon when I was 19, and I look incredible. I can't believe it. So anyway, here I am in midlife, 56. I felt really washed up a couple of years ago and decided I want to look like I did when I was 19. Yes, well, let's see how much I can do of that. Anyway, those were my early years. Then in my 20s, I got into karate, actually martial arts, and I became very good at it. Actually, I'm the type of person, when I do something, I give it 100%. So at that time I was living in Germany teaching piano. I had just finished my master's degree, and I excelled in karate, Shotokan karate, which is a pretty hard style of karate. I did that for very intensely for like 3 years. Worked my way up, never made black belt or anything like that, but I was very good at it, very, very good. I sparred, I was really good at sparring. This is where actually I learned my stretching, was from my early years with karate in my 20s. And then, let's see, into my 30s. Into my 30s, I started, in my early 30s, I remember I sort of, didn't feel well, I felt out of shape. I turned 30, 31, 32, those years. I thought, I got to do something. So I started my running regime again. I'll run like I did when I was 20. So I started on a real hard training routine. At that time I was living in Kansas, going to the University of Kansas. And I was training. I think I worked up to about 6 miles a day every morning. Apparently I wasn't eating right or something, because I lost a lot of weight. Man, I really began to look anemic. I was in denial about it, but people started telling me, you know, Cory, you don't look very good. Do you have cancer? You know, and I thought, I took a look at myself in those years and took a deep look, and I said, you know, maybe this isn't so good. So I stopped running all the miles I was trying to run, and I had a friend at the time that was into weightlifting a lot. I had certainly done weightlifting before. You know, I had my first weight set when I was like 12 years old, so it wasn't new to me. It wasn't anything that I hadn't done before. I just hadn't really done serious weightlifting in many years. So I started on an intense weightlifting regimen, and this is about my mid-30s, and I just bulked up incredibly. I mean, I must have gained 50 pounds. I just was eating everything in sight. I was just bulking up. I was deadlifting 300 pounds. I was squatting like tons of weight. I forgot how much I was doing. I was bench pressing. You know, I was doing all the compound lifts with heavy weights, and you know, wearing these big boots, combat boots when I was doing it, trying to be tough, and eating just tons of stuff, you know, like chicken breasts galore and egg whites, you know, through the roof. And then I started doing that. And then I hit the other extreme. Then I went, you know, I just got, you know, I was very muscular, but I just had too much fat, you know, I just felt too bulky. So this was around approximately age 40. Okay, now we're getting in my 40s. Then in my 40s, early 40s, I started to tone down. I didn't, you know, lifted less weights, maybe just did calisthenics. And I did, I got into yoga, okay? So my early 40s was my yoga period. So I went through my marathon period, I went through my karate period, I went through my heavy weightlifting period, bodybuilding period. Then I got into yoga. I thought, oh, well, maybe doing yoga will tone me down and make me look less bulky. So I got into yoga, and what do you know, going along with yoga, eventually I knew somebody that influenced me to go vegan. Okay, so I went vegan for a few years, or at least 95% vegan, plant-based for several years actually, and I went one full year as a raw food vegan, 1 full year. I thought it was great because I thought I looked great, you know, I lost a lot of weight, but I was rail thin, just like I was when I was running too much and looked too skinny. I had people telling me I look terrible, I look like I'm anemic, I look like I have cancer. So I took a long look at myself in my early 40s. I said, well, maybe this raw food vegan thing isn't really going to work. You know, I did that a full year religiously. I was at that time, at my lightest, I was about 150, 155. Right now I'm like 193. And at my heaviest, a couple of years ago, I was 240. So I was about 150 or 155 pounds when I was a raw food vegan. Now, for most men with my height with not very much muscle, that's an acceptable weight. But I had a lot of muscle, and I think I lost a lot of muscle too as a vegan and raw food vegan. But that was not a good weight. I was like looking like Auschwitz. You know, I was looking like one of those Auschwitz victims. So here I am, you know, on my yoga phase, on my vegan phase, plant-based phase, and I thought, well, you know, I got to do something. So I went to totally other extreme. I read a book. I read a book on how the cholesterol and fat is just a big scam. It doesn't cause heart disease, and I do believe that now. And so anyway, so I started just pigging out on bacon and eggs and eating meat all the time. And, you know, I got back up to a normal weight, at least to a normal weight. that was sort of in my probably early 40s or so. And then throughout my 40s, I sort of yo-yoed around and went here and went there. And then I reached my 50s and early 50s, and I ballooned up to 240 pounds. So I had to do something about it. And that's where I was on the last vlog I told you about, when I lost like 45 pounds over a couple of years. Well, that's sort of where I was at that point. And so I have since, oh, by the way, since last week, I have lost like 2.5 more pounds. And I've done it all on low carb. I'm on a very extremely low carb diet. Not necessarily high protein. I eat a lot of fat. It's actually a low carb, low carb, what do they call it? Low carb, high fat. I mean, there's adequate protein in there. I do eat a lot of protein, but I'm not scared of fat. I eat a lot of fat now. And the last, this is for the last 4 months. And I feel incredible. I feel better than I ever have. Highly recommend it to you. I'll do more on that later. But anyway, let's get to my stretching exercise here. I'm going to go up. I'm going to touch the wall with my arms. These are lipomas, by the way. If you're wondering what these bumps are in my arms, I think I have one here. They're just these fatty deposits called lipomas. You can go to that pimple popper doctor, that woman who extracts these things, and you can see how she takes those out. Anyway, I'm going to go up, and I'm going to go all the way down, touch my nose to the floor. My stomach is almost touching the floor, actually here. Let me go up again, go all the way down. Trying to get my stomach to the floor. My nose is on the floor. So anyway, that is my little stretch. I do other stretching exercises too. I've been sitting like this for a few minutes now. It's kind of starting to hurt. So anyway, that's my little story about my my years in sports and in exercise. I've always been interested in, sports, exercise, and health and that sort of thing. And as I said, I've done everything. I have done everything under the sun. So you don't need to recommend anything to me because I've done it all. I've been a marathon runner. I've been a bodybuilder, weightlifter. I've been a yoga advocate, yogi, I guess you would call me. I've pretty karate, martial arts, you name it, I've done it. So anyway, that's my vlog for today, and stay tuned for another vlog coming up later.